So this I find really intriguing because I've been in Blick Mead, I've looked at it, and it's got this mystical, strange energy about it. You get these strange pink algae growing on the stones in the spring itself. And even then, there's evidence with some of the artifacts and the bones and antlers and things like this that have been found that they were treating it like a very spiritual, very significant place. This is something that was echoed by the words of the brilliant professor of history at Bristol University, Ronald Hutton, where he said, in relation mainly to megalithic sites, but this could apply to Blick Mead and the early phase of Stonehenge, Midsummer was seen as a time when the normal laws of nature or divinity could be suspended, when spirits and fairies could contact humans, when humans could exceed the usual limitations of the world. And so there are traditions, more traditions aligned to the summer solstice all across the country, pagan Europe especially. Now, not as many as we get at the winter solstice, but there are traditions of lighting beacons on high places all across the country, rolling great haystacks on fire down hills, dancing around fires and things like this, because you're at the peak of the year where the more sunlight than any other time of year is coming through and hitting us, each and every one of us. But this is just a short video with no sound, but this is from my friend Howard Crowhurst's films called Megaliths, which I highly recommend. And in this, it's just some really interesting images because watching the sunrise on the two solstices is almost like a pendulum. It's like watching the sun like the end of a pendulum. And obviously on the summer solstice, we have the longest day and the shortest night, which is represented here. And on the winter solstice, December the 21st or thereabouts, we have the shortest day and the longest night. And so this side of things we take for granted, but this is obviously opposite in the southern hemisphere. This is kind of what it looks like if you're looking at the sort of landscape where the sun would rise on the summer solstice on the left to the northeast, the winter solstice to the southeast, and obviously east is where the equinox is. And each time the sun reaches one of these solstice points, it's what's called a standstill. Solstice means the standstill of the sun. So the sun will appear to rise in roughly the same position for about 3, possibly 4 days before it starts rising further, going back towards the eastern part of the horizon. And so this is why it was very significant to these ancient people, because it was like the stopping of the sun. It did things. At the winter solstice, it was seen as the coming back of the light. And even like the whole story of Jesus is really interesting because his supposed birthday is December the 25th. That is the day the sun starts returning and the light starts returning back into the sky as it stays still from the 21st to the 25th. And so there's a lot to think about why the ancients were so obsessed with these times of the year and was making the observations and recording this. It's also an interesting fact, I just blew my mind when I found this out, but the energy from 2 minutes of the sun's rays hitting the earth can power the planet for a full year. The full energy consumption of the planet is 2 minutes of sunlight hitting the earth. So that kind of blows your mind when you think about all this fossil fuels and everything else we're doing on the planet. But you can imagine that could also affect us. And that may well be the case because there's something called an electromagnetic energy transfer hitting the earth, especially peaks around the time of the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. And no doubt this would have an effect on our DNA, an effect on us, possibly spiritually, possibly physically as well. But we must remember also that it's not just Stonehenge where the solstice is celebrated. Right now in Peru, we have the remarkable celebration of the Inti Raymi, something I've witnessed once back in 2015. This is the traditional festival of the sun of the Inca. And it's the largest, festival in the whole of the southern hemisphere, pretty much. And it lasts for many, many days, dedicated to the sun god Inti. And it was held during their winter solstice, which is the summer solstice to us, like today, basically the few days leading up to today. And it marks the beginning of their year. And it was said traditionally only to be created in the year 1430. But I believe these traditions are probably much, much older. Here's my good friend Andrew Collins, also a well-known author on all things Göbekli Tepe in Egypt and other such things. He was with me in 2015, and here he is in the crowd. I thought it was quite a fun photo during the festivities of the Inti Raymi in Cusco. Now, I'm mentioning him here now because he has been quite a large influence on me. He's a good friend, but he's also been a mentor to me with my research. And he introduced me to this remarkable site all the way down in southeast Turkey called Karahan Tepe. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard of this. I'm sure most of you have, I would imagine. But just let's get some perspective here, because this is what Karahan Tepe looked like